Hi, I'm Ashley, self-proclaimed resources nerd and staff member at Futures Northwest. In this series, Northwest Career and College Connections, I'll be interviewing folks from local colleges and apprenticeship programs in Whatcom and Skagit County to highlight new and important information so that you can take your next step after high school with confidence. Today's guest is Rob Bartel, Training Director at Northwest Washington Electrical Industry J.A.T.C. He will be answering questions about the apprenticeship program, what a career as an electrician looks like, and what you can do to set yourself apart in the application process. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a single tip to support your future success. Got a question? Leave it in the comments section below. Welcome, Rob. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Ashley. Thanks for having me today.
Fantastic. So let's start off getting to know you a little bit more. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey into your current role, and what your favorite thing about being a training director is?
Sure, kind of a long story and how I got here, but essentially as doors opened, I went through them. I grew up in a family where my father was kind of a handyman and had three sons, and all of the electrical work he kind of steered me towards, and did an awful lot of residential electrical work in New York. And there you don't have to have a license outside the big cities. So we would get permits, we'd get inspections, but that was kind of the main thing I grew up with and was expected to go into the trades. And whether I liked it or not, that was the direction I was pushed towards. So then after a couple years of rebellion, eventually married my wife, moved to the West Coast. And at that point, we were in a state where it required licensing, and so electrical work was a little tougher. I was sort of a jack of all, master of none, and I realized, the way to be successful and make a living for my family is going to be to master something. And I fell back on what I knew. I knew the electrical industry. So I had a chance to go to Bellingham Tech College, and that just got me on the right path, the right direction. I figured out, okay, I really want to be an electrician. So I used that sort of as a pre-apprenticeship. Mm-hmm. And there I started tutoring people. The instructors helped me with that. And then they allowed me to start instructing some classes after I finished, which kind of fits into how I ended up here. But anyways, finished up at BTC. And then I had an opportunity to work non-union for a little bit, and I was doing that and in the electrical industry. And at the same time, I applied for this apprenticeship where we are now. Spent 5 years, went through this apprenticeship, completed it. Happiest that I could be. The number of doors that it opened was just spectacular for me. Every day I look forward to going to work with good people and doing exciting, fun things. There's only one day that I remember I didn't like, and we were really high, and I was walking out on a beam. It was safe, but I wasn't overly excited.
Yeah.
So, anyways, so then I had an opportunity to come in the office, and I worked for the business manager for a little bit as a business rep and organizer for the local union, and that gave me a chance at this job, and here I am. And so that's kind of my life story. And then the next part, what do I like the most about being a training director? There's a lot of this job where I'm dealing with problems every day, but the most rewarding part is it's changing people's lives for the better. For me, completing the apprenticeship just changed the quality of life for me, but not just for me, for my whole family. It gave us so much more opportunities to do things, send my kids to college and such. Just having a lifestyle where we could afford to go on vacation and things like that. So there's the financial rewards, but there was also the rewards and the satisfaction of building things, working with good people. So all of those things are great. And I look forward to trying to provide that the best I can for every apprentice that comes through our program.
Awesome. Wow, what a cool story you have, Rob. And I love that you're also so passionate about what you do, and it truly does change lives. So it's really important work that you're doing. We're so glad you're here. So let's step back just a little bit and get a little bit basic. So what is an electrician's apprenticeship, and what would be your advice for students interested in the electrical trades?
So an electrical apprenticeship is a time where you come into it and you learned a craft, a skill, and you're going to spend, depending on the specific apprenticeship, and we have 3 different occupations, but you're going to spend a number of years working under a journeyman, alongside a journeyman, and learning the craft from them. And in addition to that, you're going to come into the classroom and learn kind of the why side. And we say often the on-the-job training is the how. So when you're on the job, you're paid for every hour that you're working. And when you're in the classroom, you're not paid, but if you're eligible, you can collect unemployment during that time. So that's sort of the basics on the job and in the classroom, and there's requirements for both, but check off all the boxes. It goes by really fast. I did a 5-year apprenticeship, and there one day and out the door the next is how it felt.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're enjoying what you're doing. And also, like, being paid for the on the job part is a pretty awesome perk. Not gonna lie.
Yep, for sure.
So, what would be your best advice for students interested in the electrical trades?
Well, I think dedication and determination. And what I mean by that is, like I mentioned, it changed my lifestyle, and for sure, financial rewards and benefits were there. But a lot of people talk about electricians making, significant amounts of money and such, and that's all fine and good. But you have to have the passion, the desire to do this. It's hard to get up every single morning at 4:30 in the morning and drive for 45 minutes, an hour to a job site sometimes, and then stay engaged, work hard. It might be raining out and you're working in a ditch and the water's running over the top of your boot, whatever that is. So it's not always perfect for everyone condition wise and such, but if this is what you want to do, if you decide and you make that determination, it's very easy to overcome the obstacles, put in the effort that's required to be successful.
So, for many of us, myself included, getting into an apprenticeship program can seem confusing. Can you walk us through the steps of applying and getting accepted into the program and what happens after completion?
Boy, I'm sure I understand the whole confusion. I've been here 4.5 years and I'm still confused by it sometimes. There's so many little subtleties, and people like with military experience, and they might be on a different path based on what they did in the military. And somebody that doesn't pass an aptitude test, well, what can they do? So a lot of different ways, but I think the key part is making sure you want to do this. Go to our website. We have a wealth of information there on how to apply. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to email or call us, and we can kind of guide you through the steps. But the short answer for the generic way to apply, we need to make sure you meet the minimum requirements: 18 years old, have a driver's license, be able to work in the United States. Depending on the specific apprenticeship you're going into, you're also going to need high school math or the equivalent. And two of our apprenticeships are 1 year of high school algebra or the equivalent. And then we also have one that requires 1 year of general math. So you want to make sure you check all those boxes off. And again, there's ways around all this, but it's on our website. And then after you do that, you submit all that for the application, you'll be scheduled for an aptitude test. And our aptitude test is a 0 through 9 scoring system. You need 4 or better to essentially pass. In that test, whether you get a 4 or 9 is going to be irrelevant. Think of it as a pass-fail type of thing. It's testing math, reading comprehension, and those are kind of main focus of it. Pretty straightforward. Generally, high school completers do fairly well at it. And again, the purpose of it is to assess that the people are going to be successful in the classroom. So we just want to make sure that we're not bringing people in that are going to stumble in the classroom. We want to know if that's the case. Let's give them some support up front before we overwhelm them in the classroom.
Yeah.
And then we follow up with that. It would be an interview is the next step. And the interview is what's actually scored.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what, like when someone does really well in an interview, what are the things that you notice?
So oftentimes people think that in the interview that they need to have all this prior knowledge and experience of the electrical industry or construction industry. That's not the case. We train people to be electricians and construction workers, but what we are looking for is people that have some follow through, people that are, behaving as adults, that they've proven themselves somewhere. And that can be, just consistency. Maybe there was some clubs, whether it be band or football or wrestling or whatever it is, and somebody stuck with it throughout high school, or maybe they're involved in the choir at church or whatever it is, something that just shows that this person is trying and applying themselves and moving forward. So that would be one of the key things. And then we're going to make a significant investment in whoever this future apprentice is. And they're going to make a significant investment of time and energy in us as well. So we want to make sure that we're picking someone that's going to finish this and somebody that has the determination and drive to do that. So those are kind of the key things that we're looking for. We need to make sure that people are going to be successful in the classroom and the job site.
Yes, absolutely. The next question is an important one, and it comes from students. It's actually 2 questions. Number 1, how much do electricians make? And number 2, how long does it take to complete the apprenticeship program? Now, I know you just said that you completed yours in 5, but I'm guessing there might be some variation among the various programs. So go ahead and take it away.
So we have 3 different occupations. But before I go into those, I just want to mention the electrical industry is huge, and there's all different ways to make a living in the electrical industry. You could work for a supply house delivering parts or lighting takeoffs, or working for a manufacturer as a salesperson, or working for an electrical engineer as the designer, CAD programmer type of person. You could be an electrical inspector, on, just so many different ways to go with this. Outside linemen, so they're the people that are working on the poles, delivering the power to the houses, and just a myriad of things. Let's see, maybe school maintenance electricians, and just on this goes. But essentially, we have 3 programs, and our 3, we have inside wireman, and that's a general electrician. And that person is here for about 5 years, 8,000 hours is on the job training, and there's 1,200 hours in the classroom training for that. That person's going to be doing pretty much everything from the meter base into the facility or the house, residence, whatever it is. And that could be traffic lights, that could certainly be school campuses, refineries, hospitals, and all the associated electrical systems in there. The next one, well, that one, the apprentice starts at $19.18 currently, plus there's some benefits. And when they become a journeyman, they're making $47.95 currently.
Wow.
And in addition to that, there's full family health care and significant retirement benefits as well. So our next apprenticeship is limited energy, and that's going to be largely, as it mentions, limited voltage. So a lot of teledata work, so that's computer systems, telephone networks, things like that. But it also goes into nurse call stations, fire alarm, security, access, things of that nature. And that one, 3 years, 4,800 hours on the job, and about 500 hours in the classroom experience are required for that. And let's see, that apprentice starts off around $16 in change per hour, again with benefits and such. And upon completion, a journeyman currently is making just about $30 with, again, full family health care and the pretty generous retirement package.
Yeah.
And then our third and final apprenticeship that we have is a residential apprenticeship. And just like it sounds, certainly a lot of those apprentices are working in houses and where it be doing service calls or new houses, track housing. Another piece that's really growing in Whatcom County are the mixed use buildings that you see around Berkeley and Samish Way,
Mhm.
the multi-story residential complexes, and where that be apartments, condos, whatever that is, certainly Fairhaven as well. So they do get a wide variety of exposure, but residential work primarily. That's a 2-year program, 4,000 hours on the job, and about 350 hours in the classroom. That apprentice is starting around $15 an hour, and when complete, would be about $28 an hour on the check. And again, full family health care and generous retirement stuff.
Yeah. Wow. These are really amazing opportunities. And in a relatively small amount of time, a pretty drastic increase in income as well. Like
Mhm.
5 years is a pretty relatively short amount of time, and that is the longer, opportunity. So,
For sure. And just mentioning a couple more things about that. In our apprenticeship, um, it's a step increase. So like every 1,000 hours, 800 hours, depends on the program, but there's pre-programmed steps for wage increases. So as you become more knowledgeable, you've completed some knowledge in the classroom, you've gained some skills in the job site. So based on hours, there's multiple progressions. So it's not like you're working for $15 for your whole apprenticeship and then all of a sudden you get 50 or whatever it is. It's gradual increase over that. I think another important piece that I failed to mention, each one of ours also requires that you walk out with a state certification, which is essentially your electrical license to do the scope of work that you've been trained for, which, that's sort of a golden ticket, so to speak, and that it's going to open up all kinds of doors for you, being able to do that work professionally and know that you've been trained and you're skilled to do it.
mm, absolutely. Such great tips. Thank you so much. Okay, so if a student were on the fence about applying, what would you recommend they do to gain clarity?
I think finding some experiences for sure. Look into the craft. There's a lot of construction trades and a lot of different things that could interest somebody. So if they're deciding, oh, do I want to be a plumber? Do I want to be a welder? Whatever those things are, I would certainly look. Our website is one place to start looking. We have some resources there, but I would just go around and check on a bunch of stuff and kind of see what does this person do. For the electrical program, there's a day in the life of an electrical apprentice. It's a YouTube video. It's available on our website. I'd encourage you to go and see it. And you can kind of, through the eyes of an apprentice, is sort of how it was developed. And it shows that the apprentice, has the alarm clock going off at like 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and then driving, sometimes 45 minutes, an hour or something to the job. Then once they're there, it might be raining and they have to use porta potties, and it's not the perfect job for everybody, but they also show all of the satisfaction of working with others and completing a task, and turning on the lights to a multi-story building or a sign, or every time you drive through that traffic signal, know that you are part of building that.
Yeah.
So I think reaching out and finding those resources like that, to kind of steer you and see if it's the right way to go. The other idea that I've been recommending, good, bad, otherwise, I don't know, but is Habitat for Humanity. I think they're a good, solid organization, and you can gain some skills, but work with others there and kind of get an idea. It's a quick way to try out the construction craft and see if you like it. And you'll be out there, there will be competent, qualified people leading you, but at the same time, the expectations aren't so high. And if you hate it by lunchtime, well, finish the day and no harm, no foul. But if you love it, you might meet a retired electrician that's there, and he might take you under his wing and help you, mentor you, and move you forward in your career. So I think those are the key ways. I would look through resources on our website and other websites, whatever the craft is that you're looking at, and then of course try to get a little bit of experience and whatever that looks like. Like I say, I mentioned Habitat for Humanity, but there's probably other similar ways to try things out.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really good suggestion. I love that quite a bit. And I think most of us can have access to that opportunity as well. You had mentioned in a conversation that you and I were having earlier about licensing, and I was mentioning that sometimes that can be a barrier, getting a driver's license for students. What would be your advice for students who are sort of struggling to get that that documentation?
Yeah, for sure. So don't give up. It's just one hurdle. It's the same thing if somebody doesn't have the math requirement. The 18-year-old, that one I can't change. That's just when the day gets there, but we want to support, we want to help people. We understand that there's barriers. Although we don't directly help people obtain driver's licenses, we do have access to some various resources. And if that's the stumbling block, if you really want to be an electrician, you really want to be in our program, give us a call and say, hey, look, I really want to do this. Do you have any resources? And, we could probably steer you. We have a couple contacts that we could probably try to get some help for you. And
wonderful.
I don't think that one should be a significant barrier.
Yeah. Awesome. That's really good to know. And I like, you've mentioned it a couple times that if people have questions to ask, that y'all are friendly, you'll be happy to answer questions. And there's also no such thing as a stupid question. Like this, if you don't know what you don't know. So it's better to ask, than to be, curious and not have the answer you need.
For sure. We, on our website, Teresa in our front office, all day long answering the phone, and she prefers email, but whatever's best for you. And, she gets all kinds of questions, and any way we can help, we're certainly trying to. We want people that want to be electricians, of course. And we want to change lives, and we like helping people, all of us that are here.
Yeah, absolutely. I get a sense of that just from talking to you. Let's go a little bit into the union side, because I think a part of your story that's really fascinating is that in the beginning you were not working for a union and then you transitioned into that work, and you talk a little bit about that in the beginning, but to kind of formalize the question, what do you believe is the most valuable part about joining a union, and how does that process work?
So I'll start with the how the process works. Fairly simple with the apprenticeship method. So if you come into our apprenticeship, everyone currently in our apprenticeship is a union member. They go hand in hand. So once you're accepted into the apprenticeship or indentured and registered as an apprentice in our program, you then become a union member. And that's just signing up, doing some paperwork. There's some small amount of dues involved, but a very minimal amount. And it just sort of happens. And then you're a union member moving forward. Think about the benefits of the union. And what I often say is, instead of being like just me by myself, there's a big group behind me as well, meaning when I'm the apprentice or the union member, there's people that represent and help and such. So it's a collective group where it would be a one for all and all for one, so to speak. And certainly working together, we can accomplish great things, is what I see. And I've been very happy. It's a helpful, good camaraderie on the job sites where people are working together to accomplish great goals. And certainly pay and benefits you hear of with the union, and working collectively where everyone is agreeing that this is the minimum amount for the pay that they'll get for this job, and not kind of a race to the bottom, so to speak, where everybody's trying to undercut each other for pay.
Yeah.
That's been my experience. I've been very happy with that. Likewise, if anything goes wrong on job sites, there's a union there that can arbitrate or file grievances on your behalf between you and the employer, and often those are resolved with very little effort. If you don't get paid, it's not like you have to work with the employer a little bit, but certainly the union is going to get involved and make sure that you're paid appropriately.
Yeah.
Where non-union, that wasn't the case. One of my employers, I should probably 6-7 years later, finally paid me what he owed me, and it wasn't a good experience. But
Yeah. Well, it sounds like by joining the union, it's a bit of a safety net to have as an employee. Yeah.
yeah, but I would recommend it, very pro-union. But again, I think I just want to be clear, there's great non-union electricians and electrical companies, and certainly Watkins Gadget throughout the Northwest, but
Of
a lot
course.
of great union companies and union things as well. So
Absolutely. Well, I think it's funny because I think just in the general public, if you don't have a family member who's been in a union, it's a little bit of a mystery. So that's always why I ask that question, because it's like, what is that? Like, what does it mean? So thank you for answering that question. And then you talked a little bit about some resources earlier. You talked about your website, which we'll include in the show notes, as well as like Habitat for Humanity for kind of gaining clarity. What are some other resources or tips that every new applicant should know about?
well, yep, I think I kind of went down that road. And for me and for our program, we encourage people, go to our website, read that first. If you have follow-up questions, certainly contact Teresa in the front office or follow the directions there. Um, Other than that, certainly, again, reaching out to various people, seeing who you can connect with. Like if you happen to be in Lowe's or in Ace Hardware, or whatever that is, and you're walking the aisles and you see somebody with a Mills Electric, or something like that on the side of their van, just maybe start a conversation with them and realize sometimes they're in a real hurry and they need to to get back to a job or whatever it is. But sometimes, they can take 5-10 minutes and, have a good conversation. Hey, what's the job like? Do you like it? And just reach out, start asking some questions. And, how did you become an electrician? That type of stuff. And most all of us like talking about ourselves and our experiences. And I think that's a great way to make a connection and help you solidify your choice. So,
Yeah.
other than that,
And like you had mentioned earlier, you had said, like the spaces and places that we all occupy have had, electricity going through them. So there's likely somebody, like for example, at your school or at your extracurricular activity or at your church or any other organization that you're a part of, there's likely somebody who's working in the electrical part of that organization. So what would be your advice as far as like accessing those people? What are they called? Like how would you find those people?
yep, obviously electricians, right?
Right.
But could be maintenance people,
Yeah.
maintenance electricians, things like that is probably the generic term. But most people, I think, would be some form of electrician would be what you'd be looking for if you're interested in electrical. But of course, realize that I'm speaking mostly about electrical in our specific program, but it's not very far off from the welders or iron workers or plumbers and pipe fitters. So all of the building trades kind of work the same way. And I think these general tips would be appropriate for any of the various building trades type of apprenticeship. So for us electricians, it'd be kind of what I'd be looking for, but it could be the guy who's doing telephones in whatever building it is. So, it might be a telephone repair guy who's actually part of an electrical union. It could be the guy who's doing the security system, or, and by guy, I mean as generic for sure. Females, we want to encourage females. They're very successful in our program. So it could be the guy or gal doing almost any type of electrical work with wires, cables, that type of thing. So I'm
Yes,
not
just kind
sure.
of keep your eye out for those people. And I like that you mentioned like phones and security systems too, because that's not the first thing that comes to mind. So those types of tips I think are so helpful. And also like the maintenance folks at whatever building you're in may have experience as well. So really good tips and advice, Rob. Thank you.
You're welcome.
For more detailed information on today's video and other resources, check out the show notes and feel free to leave any questions for myself or Rob. Remember to subscribe and like this channel for more resources and information to take your next step after high school with confidence. If you want even more great resources, you can check out our website at FuturesNW.org. I hope to see you next time on Northwest Career and College Connections. Bye.